This story comes to us from Common Dreams. A federal judge on Friday cited the impact of the coronavirus pandemic when she temporarily blocked a Trump administration rule that could have stripped federal food assistance from roughly 700,000 people.
Oh my God.
This is a story that we covered on Friday. We've actually covered it before that even. This was a rule that has some pretty draconian measures included in it that would have stripped massive numbers of people from having access to food benefits or SNAP benefits. So good news is what the advocacy group in Maryland, Maryland Healthcare for All Coalition said on Monday. The sharply criticized U.S. Department of Agriculture rule change would have targeted work requirements on certain adult supplemental nutritional assistance program, SNAP, recipients, and hampered states' authority to waive those requirements. It was scheduled to go into effect April 1st. A timeline the administration saw no need to push back despite mounting economic and societal impacts of the nationally spreading outbreak of the novel coronavirus. Chief Judge Burl Howell of the United States District Court in Washington, D.C. wrote in her Friday ruling that, quote, aspects of the final rule are likely unlawful because they are arbitrary and capricious. Howell wrote, the low-income Americans targeted by USDA's final rule depend on monthly SNAP benefits to avoid hunger. These SNAP participants may wield little political or economic power, but nonetheless, USDA's proposed changes to take away nutrition benefits from almost 700,000 people prompted, quote, more than 100,000 comments, the majority of which the agency concedes were opposed to the proposed changes. Notwithstanding these critical comments, continued Howell, USDA proceeded in the challenged final rule to adopt changes that, in some respects, were more draconian than those initially proposed. She used the term cruel to its core to describe these rules. And it would have been. And it's really good that this has been essentially nixed or at the very least pushed back. We need to protect food benefit programs and supplemental food programs for low-income individuals. And work requirements are in and of themselves sort of antithetical to the stated goal of such programs, right? When you say, hey, people need to have access to adequate adequate foodstuffs, adequate nutrition, there's no like work requirement for that. It's not people who are working need to have adequate access. No, just people, just individual people. That's a need that people have. And when people aren't able to meet that need for themselves, I mean, what is the government for but to meet the needs of the citizenry, right? That's what it's there for, particularly in a time like right now when there is a public health emergency that is affecting everyone. Why would we go through with putting nearly 700,000 people, 700,000 food insecure people, why would we go about depriving them of a social safety net that they rely on for adequate nutrition? Do we want to have a sickly populace? Do we want to deprive people of the ability? I thought we wanted life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. But if you're going to deprive food insecure people of a social safety net designed to help them get nutritional food, aren't you in effect depriving them of their right to life?
So here's my problem. Again, we are a country that cannot take care of its own people, especially in the midst of a crisis. If this doesn't convince all of you that the United States is messed up from the get-go, then I don't know what will, because this is only the beginning. And yet we have a president, and look, there's a lot of things terrible about Trump. There's a lot of terrible things to be said about him. But this ongoing crisis that we have has been happening under Democratic presidents and under Republican presidents. And never have any one of those previous presidents ever addressed, hey, there's a lack of Medicare for all. We don't have single-payer health care. Hey, people are starving in this country. Hey, people are hurting in this country. We're not going to take care of them. And that's it. And they just kick the can down the road to the next president. And now Donald Trump, he's the one in charge. And yet this man is beyond humanity. He is very cruel. And under a Biden administration, I don't see anything changing. Yeah, he says he might help out the working class, but I don't believe them because this is neoliberalism. And finally, for the first time ever, we're seeing the system crack and fall apart. You got to get angry. You got to get mad. Paul.
Real quick, I want to correct myself. It was not the judge that referred to the rule as cruel to its core. It was New York's Attorney General Letitia James who used the phrase cruel to its core.
And let me just open this up because I think it's very important. Kate was alluding to this, that it's not, we have to stop making it just about the president. Because right now, there are a lot of people that are hungry in America every day. And we're talking before about empty store shelves. Well, when they're not empty, they throw away 30% of the food they buy.
Yes,
now,
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I have taken part in that when I was working at Costco, and it really broke my heart. I would actually try and walk away from the dumpsters before I would get involved in that because I just couldn't do it. That was the one thing I hated about my job the most. I hated throwing away the food, and we threw away a lot of food.
And so on that, when that food's thrown away, and tell me if this is also with Costco, they close the lid usually with a lock.
Yeah.
So that people don't come and take it.
Yeah.
Because in America, if you give food to someone and they get food poisoning, for some reason, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's not the case in just about every other country, such as Italy, as an example, you could get sued. And no lawmaker has ever thought, hey, maybe we should make an exception for this, that if you're not throwing away expired stuff or someone, people that are going to starve if they don't have food, maybe we find some way to have an exemption of liability. That's not done.
Maybe there should be a requirement that the food be donated to food shelters.
And that would be a good way to do it too. But instead, you know what these businesses think? Well, if we do that, if we donate 30% of the food we have, well, that'll probably cut into the amount we can charge for food because the supply will go up elsewhere, the stuff we donated, and demand will be the same, so we'll have to cut prices. So if we give people the 30% of food we throw out, we'll actually lose money.
I do notice some of the baked goods, like the bread and cookies that were made inside Costco, was given to like charities.
That's good.
That's good. But organic food like bananas, strawberries, fruits and vegetables would be thrown out. Meat products too, and it's
Because everyone knows that's only good for 24 hours.
yeah, it's very difficult to really even because for me it's difficult to talk about because being in the city you see a lot of starving people. You see a lot of people waiting in line at the homeless shelter to get food, and this is a real reality. Daniel talked about too in his earlier story. Look, we're a country that's right now dealing with a crisis, and our stores are empty. And tomorrow, I got to do a few errands for my two relatives who are senior citizens. And on one side, I'm very saddened to go inside, but the other side, I'm kind of excited to see just, what's the damage? How empty is it? What's left? We got to be better than this. And, the end all be all isn't with a president. It starts with us bringing in change. But now we got to move on to our next
I want to say
story.
one thing very quickly that I'm sure we can all agree on. Poor people should not have steak or lobster. Oh, wait, no, that's the Democrats and Republicans who've been saying that since forever, trying to restrict and tell people how they can use their food stamps. My
How
bad.
dare those poor people have food and stuff to eat? Look at them with their color
How
televisions.
dare they have solid cuts of muscle?
A glass of red wine? Oh, my God. That can't happen.
That was freeloader. What the hell?